Okay, Judith, it's so wonderful to see you today. We would like to talk with you about how people all over the world support Ukraine and what helps them to choose the right cause to support. I will be asking questions. Yuri will be taking notes, and whenever he has any questions to add, some follow-ups, he will be also joining our conversation. Sounds good?
Sounds great.
Thank you so much. Judith, can you please tell a little bit about yourself and how are you connected to Ukraine?
Okay, so I'm living in the United States in a suburb of the town of the city of Philadelphia, which is where the United States was actually founded in the 1700s. It's the cradle of liberty, as we say. And so how am I connected with Ukraine? The first way I would say is that my family, my grandparents came from a small town not far from the Ukrainian border and came to America when my grandfather was 18. So they talked about Ukraine. They did not live in Ukraine at the time, but the borders were different. I also have a connection with Ukraine in that I have now a number of Ukrainian students who have come to the US, have fled the war and emigrated to the US, some very recently and within the last few months. And they are now in my class, my English class, which is a face-to-face class. So those are I think, two principal ways that I'm connected with Ukraine.
And these days you, I believe, follow the news and follow the Ukrainian situation very closely. Is it correct?
I follow the news, however, at the same time, I think my news and your news is vastly different. I think the filter on the news that I get is pretty thick compared to, do you know what I mean by that? The filter?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Like this censorship in US news is different from how it is in Ukraine. And in many cases, we have the first-hand experience.
Yes, and I know this because my students tell me this. My Ukrainian students tell me they don't listen to I urge them to follow the US news for their language. And they say, but whenever we listen and they talk about Ukraine, it's not accurate or correct or whatever. Yeah.
Do you know, recently Timothy Schneider have released a series of lectures about Ukrainian history, and it is both in English and it gives a very accurate picture on how Ukraine was formed as a country, as a state, and yeah, it actually gives a lot of new information even to us. My husband and I adore listening to his lectures.
Wow, that's great. Thank you. I just made a note. I would love to check that out.
Sure. Okay, let's move on. The next question I would ask you, do you support Ukraine these days? And if you do, how do you support Ukraine?
Well, the way that I just mentioned with my students, but also I contribute, I have an ongoing contribution through I forget what it is called now, but so I support Ukraine by buying medical supplies, purchasing medical supplies for the troops and for people who are injured. I haven't changed the purchase in a while, so it's regularly the same thing. These are some things that Tanya told me would be especially valuable for people who were fighting, but also people who, the soldiers, but also people who are you know, in apartment buildings that get bombed or injured or harmed in some way. So I realized that I need to go in and see if there are other, you know, perhaps change the choice, or perhaps we talk about what are some things that are more important now at this point in the war. I mean, obviously I can't buy, you know, rocket launchers and things like that. But the things that help to support the troops, as well as I think more importantly, the civilians who are caught in the way.
And may I ask, how do you choose what cause to support?
You told me.
So it is the reference.
It's the site that you told me about. Yes.
I mean that you trusted me that I give you a good suggestion. Is it?
Yeah. Yes, but I also support the other cause that I support is in Philadelphia. There's a cause that it's a Quaker organization. I went to a Quaker school, and it's a Quaker organization that I contribute to regularly for the relief efforts for Ukrainians. So it helps people who come to the U.S., Ukrainians who come to the U.S. and don't have anything, you know, and need food, or need a place to live, or need, you know, a jacket, or need some food for the cat, or whatever it is. I support them through financial contributions, and my family in Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia, they are more active with that organization.
Would it be fair to say that the sense of community and actually the reference from people that you trust are the key factors in choosing the cause that you support?
It's important. It's very important. I mean, especially from someone that I know who's in Ukraine, right? I haven't spoken about any of this to my students in the US because I mean, they know I sent the link that you sent me to everyone in my class that I teach. That was 25 people. At the time, I would say about 50% were Ukrainian, and the rest were from Latin America or from Russia, because there's a big Russian community in Philadelphia.
Right.
And I intend to do the same thing when we meet for the first time next week. My class, so a summer class just ended. Now a fall through the rest of the year till June will start, and I will give everybody the link, and I will strongly encourage them to please contribute. But I have to be careful about how I position it to my Ukrainian students, because I don't want them to feel like I'm saying, here, go contribute to your country. But I think it's important that we all do something.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing this information. And may I ask, what inspires you to share this information, to link to the site?
What inspires me? Yeah.
If it is the correct word, then.
Yeah, no, it's a great word. It's a great way to say it. Or inspires or motivates, either one, similar, right? I am like many people. I am shocked at what has happened, and I am floored that we cannot stop this ourselves. the United States in the 1980s and 70s, if we didn't like some despot ruler in some country, God knows where else, what did we do? I mean, there's no question. Central Intelligence Agency went and killed them, knocked them out. I don't see why we can't do that here in this situation. So you see, I'm very like, this is a situation that needs to be stopped. Clearly, it just needs to be stopped soon, quickly. We have to do whatever we can. And that's my thinking. I'm not as informed as you are. It saddens me, it upsets me, because I work with people who come from other countries and risk their lives to come to the States because they feel like it's a free place for them, you know. It is, and people fleeing Honduras and Guatemala, they flee these gangs of horrible, horrible rulers to come to the United States. It's the same situation but it's not as nearly as horrible as being in your own country and being bombed and killed and so attacked.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah. I just had an idea too that I would add the link to my LinkedIn profile because I have over 2,000 connections in LinkedIn. Do you know LinkedIn?
Yeah. We should connect there, actually.
We should. Are you on?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I will send you my details later.
Beautiful. Good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to ask a next question.
Yes.
So if you imagine a situation when the cause that you support want to write a story about how people support them, how people send those goods on regular basis. And they want to write about you, about yourself. What information would you feel free, what information would be comfortable for you sharing?
Oh, well, who would be reading this?
Who would you expect to read such story, like in your community? If we talk about your communities.
Okay, so now this is an imaginary type thing. What if scenario?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
So if, yes, I think everything I've just said would, if it was appropriate, I would include it. I do think that I don't know how, but maybe knowing that there are people in the world who, you know, are trying to help in a small way. And, you know, having people know that would be helpful to know they're not, you know, alone, or they're not, you know, to know that the world is actually the whole world, with the exception of Russia, is and a couple of other countries are supporting Ukraine. And there's just no question about it. This is why I can't quite figure out. I mean, there are all kinds of theories, but yes. So all of it, if you want, all of it could be shared. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And if, again, following this what if situation, if we talk about your community, do you believe that mentioning that a person from Florida area on regular basis supports the cause would give people from the Florida area this idea of contributing inspires them because someone from a particular location helps.
Yeah, I would say yes, sure. It's an enormous country. I mean, it's a big country. It's not as big as Russia geographically. It's a big country and it's very diverse, and people are very, I'm sure Ukraine is a large country too. People in the north, people in the west, people, there are different, and it's very similar. So yes, I think it would encourage people to be more active, or to perhaps act. Yeah. People in the state, people in the local town or the local city also it would be, yeah. I mean, I could see all kinds of situations for sure. Are you
good? Yeah, please.
I'm just wondering what you're thinking.
We are currently exploring an idea of having stories about people who contribute to this, I want to say service, but actually it is a cause. So people who contribute to this cause, we are thinking about writing a story about these people, and we're thinking what details this story may have to inspire people to contribute more.
Yeah. Do you have do you have others who you are thinking about? Other people?
Currently, we also have launched a survey online. So people, and we are watching if we ask some questions already in the survey, and if people have an idea, if people want to share a bit more, we also invite them to talk to us.
Fabulous. And I'm sure that the organization Preply is a Ukrainian organization.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are things that they are doing for sure, although they don't publicize it with us, but I've heard a few things. I mean, for example, they don't accept, as you know, well, no one accepts the Russian ruble anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it is. I mean, it is. It is looking at this situation from a number of different perspectives, I think is interesting. I have students in Russia, sitting in Russia, that I teach, and we have started to talk about this situation, but we usually end up just stopping because it is a difficult situation. I have people in Poland who have immigrated from Russia because they don't want to live there anymore. There are millions of people who have left because of this situation. And, we all talk about it. And it's just interesting to hear different perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely gives a perspective, not just one point of view. And even here in Ukraine, it is important to understand how people in different locations think, assess the situation, how they act on what is going on.
Yes, that is exactly what I feel that we don't have access to in the States, because we don't have an unbiased news outlet. The news organizations now are owned by large, enormous corporations. So there's no what's called free press anymore. It's no, except with the exception of BBC.
Mm-hmm.
So we hear our news, which is filtered by, eventually by, you know, NBC, this enormous Times Warner corporation. So we don't really get the truth, with the exception of some other, you know, yes, you have to get your news online, but yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like news, like free press these days is a luxury. And I believe that, you know, the free nation can actually contribute to creating platforms for free news in their location.
Yeah, there we have one called, it's called Democracy Now.
Yuri has a hand up.
Yes, regarding the news, like let me say it this way. Do you read local newspapers?
Which kind of newspapers?
A local. Local.
Not so,
paper.
not as much as I used to. I read I read this one on Sunday. Like physically read it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I read Democracy Now, which is an independent, completely independent channel. Very, very different. But that is online. And I read blogs, and I read, you know, I do watch a lot of video, I'm sure, like you do. But those are the primary sources that I have. Yeah.